Just checking the room audio. Thank you. Hi, Council Smart. Just doing an audio check. Let me know if I sound good. Thanks.
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, can sound you. Or hear you, sorry. Thanks.
Thanks.
I went home and had some very salty soup. I didn't realize that.
Hello,
it was,
Councillor Smart. Just
it
testing you
was a
can hear
diaper.
us.
And I thought it would be better than, the regular cans.
Yes, thank you.
Cellar. When I looked at it,
Perfect. Thank you.
high in sodium. It was like, oh, it's really, it's made my lips all dry. It's like a cabbage vegetable soup.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regularly scheduled council meeting for July the 13th. As we call the meeting to order, we'd just like to acknowledge that we gather on the traditional territories of the Coast and Strait Salish peoples, specifically recognize the Lekwungen-speaking people known today as the Songhees and the Esquimalt nations, and their historic connection to these historic lands and waters continues to this day. We are waiting for one councillor still to join us online, Councillor Braithwaite, but we'll go through some of the procedural pieces of the meeting as we anticipate her any second. First order of business is approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover and seconder? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed, none opposed? Adoption of the minutes. We have two, both from June 22nd. Same mover and seconder. Any discussion, changes, corrections, or amendments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. My comments tonight are brief. I do want to just acknowledge we have Councillor Smart, who's joining us from afar today, and Councillor Braithwaite will be joining us online as well this evening. Just will become. Oh, there she's just joined us now. Perfect. My remarks fairly brief. I just want to acknowledge I attended the YAM Magazine Restaurant Awards, which I think is the third or fourth time. What was interesting is there was 4 different Oak Bay restaurants that were nominated for 7 different awards. So it was quite a good showing for Oak Bay restaurants in their best of categories. Also just want to acknowledge we had our first Music in the Park last week, and those will be happening throughout the summer. So if you have a chance to get to Willows and attend, really well worthwhile. Many members of staff and council attended the Pride Parade over the weekend, and it was very well attended both in the parade and by people out to this. So it was nice to see the turnout. There is yoga in the park starting already. So this first one was last week. This next one is this Tuesday. So if you're interested in doing yoga in the park, it's again at Willows on Tuesday night. And there is a sculpture tour that's happening this Thursday that you have to register for, but that's happening as well with some accompaniment of music and some of the artists attending on that Thursday. Turning then to the next order of item on the agenda is our public comment and question period. We have some new faces in the audience, so just for clarification, items on the agenda, if they're open for public input, we'll allow public input at that time. But we allow time in every meeting for members of the public to address council on anything really not on the agenda, but of general interest to council or to the public or to the community. So if anybody here, either online or in person, wishes to address council, you can do so. Just ask you that you raise your hand and then come forward to the microphone. Again, this is just anything, comments on things that are not on the agenda tonight, but are just of general interest to the community. I always give it a little moment of time because sometimes people are a bit nervous about coming forward. Don't see hands popping up. I will just give one more second here. Oh, there is. Please come forward. You can demonstrate. If you're online or you're watching this on the YouTube stream, you can call. There's a 1855 number with instructions on the agenda package as well. And if you're on the Zoom call, you can just raise your hand within the app to make yourself known. But we have our first speaker in the room. So if you could just turn on, your microphone is on. You can demonstrate this. So name, municipality of residence, and then you have up to 3 minutes to address council. Welcome.
Let's get this party started. Leona Frenette, Oak Bay resident. Here as I try to make it a regular appearance for the last year and a bit, talking about For and No More. I would like to thank the mayor and council for their patience with me and listening to what I have to say. It's very much appreciated, not only by me, but the residents in my neighborhood. I am just here to remind everyone of our commitment to our official community plan, and that it's absolutely imperative that we stick to that now that we're going into an election cycle. You know, some of you may or may not be here, and I think that this time it would be prudent that nothing gets approved outside of the official community plan. There seems to be a willingness at times to listen to these proposals, and just here to remind you that when we don't stop and take note of what the impacts will be, as you've said, Kevin, many times, it's very unfortunate, and I'm sorry this has happened. We have an opportunity to stop that kind of thing. We have a very unfortunate situation on Woodburn today with a development that has foisted a responsibility of moving a power line, a high use power line, and a transformer from their property to a neighbor's down the way. And it's caused nothing but grief for that neighbor that has been impacted. And I can only say that unless we start dealing with those types of issues and not turn our resources to these big Uber developments that think that they can just come in and ask for changes to the regulations or the bylaws and the OCP, need to hear a hard no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fournette. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to council this evening on items not on the agenda? Okay, I will move on to items on the agenda. So with that, we'll move to section 6, which is bylaws and permits. This section does not have public input on it. Our first item of business is 6.1, 2579 Cadboro Bay Road. Go ahead, Ms. Claver.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I am presenting zoning bylaw amendment application Z0N00069 for 2579 Cadboro Bay, currently occupied by Liquor Plus within the Cadboro Bay Village commercial area. The application proposes a site-specific amendment that would permit cannabis retail sales at the subject property. This application seeks council's consideration of first, second, third, and final adoption of the proposed bylaw amendment. The first consideration of this application went forward to council on June 8th, where council directed staff to proceed with giving notice of first reading and to waive the public hearing. Public notices were published in the Oak Bay News on July 2nd and 9th, and the notices to neighboring properties were mailed June 29th. This report provides all comprehensive information about the application to date. Staff are recommending first, second, third, and final adoption of the proposed amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and the applicants are also present today to also answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to this table. I think I'm going to seek a motion for first and second reading. And then actually, if we can read out the language in here, and then we can have a further discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Your Worship, I would move that zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4968, 2026 be read a first and second time.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Discussion. Don't see hands popping up. I just want, go ahead, Councillor Green. You wish to speak?
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you through you to our planner for a very comprehensive report. I just wanted to say that some residents have raised concerns about the location and the proximity of this potential store. So I just wondered through you to our planner, how have those concerns been addressed, or have they been taken into account in this particular case? Thank you.
Through the mayor, in essence, I think there was a variety of different kind of consistent, I guess, points of feedback, primarily, I guess, the nature of the retail sales at that subject property. I think we could go into a very fulsome conversation or a debate as to how that parallels with retail sales in general. And so looking at, our current bylaws, our OCP policies, and weighing that into the regulatory process locally, but also provincially and federally, as we explored in the first June 8th meeting. Ultimately, I think I think that's really hard to kind of measure out how we would kind of economically evaluate one retail sales business against another. So in terms of proximity to school, we did discuss that at the first meeting. Keeping in mind form of character and design of the storefront, that was also part of the discussion, and trying to parallel, you know, the current aesthetics that exist, as well as we do have our commercial mixed use development permit area. And so that was something that could potentially be explored and may, depending on the nature of any proposed changes. So yeah, we definitely consider that as much as we possibly could.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I just wanted to acknowledge those concerns that were expressed to us in writing following the June 8th meeting, so that's why I raised it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And another question for staff about the retail operations within that area. Have we had any commentary from the adjacent retailers in the area?
Through the mayor. No, I didn't hear from any of the adjacent business operators or commercial businesses.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands. I just, similar to Councillor Green, I always think the letters in response raise points that I think are due consideration. Certainly not in favor of the change of going from liquor to cannabis. And I think understandably there's more use of alcohol than there is of cannabis, but both similarly 19 plus in terms of their use. So I am supportive of this change, but I just want to acknowledge that we've read those, and I think, you know, reflect, I think probably, my personal preference would probably be that it didn't change, but I think in terms of representing the interests of the community, I think it's reasonable ask on the part of the business owner. So I'll leave my comments there. So I'll call the question then on first and second reading. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none opposed. Have the same, if we can just read aloud the third reading.
Your worship, I would move that zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4968, 2026 be read a third time.
Moved and seconded. Is there a seconder? Thanks, yeah. I don't usually debate on third reading, so I'll give a heartbeat. Nope, all those in favor? Any opposed? And for adoption?
Your worship, I would further move that zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4968, 2026 be adopted.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Again, don't usually, oh, go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
I will have a motion arising if, once this is done, shall I do it now?
No, you should do it after consideration of the motion. So on the motion on the floor is for adoption. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Councillor Patterson, you indicate you have the motion arising.
I do. Thank you, Mayor. And you know, we have, as you referred to, we have had quite a bit of correspondence. So motion arising is that staff be directed to prepare a report for council on establishing a non-medical cannabis retail store policy for the District of Oak Bay, including an outline of the provincial and municipal approval processes and potential amendments to the district's zoning bylaw required to implement such a policy.
Could you just read that again, just so we have it? I just want to make sure I'm clear about whether you're asking for that policy to be developed or for a report to come back to the
That staff be directed to prepare a report for council on establishing a non-medical cannabis retail store policy for the District of Oak Bay, including an outline of the provincial and municipal approval processes and potential amendment to the district's zoning bylaw required to implement such a policy.
Thank you. So it's moved. Just for my clarification, if this is seconded and if it passes, this would come back to the next council, would be my understanding of timelines if this is this report back. So and just for absolute clarification, the report back would be what it would take to generate such a policy, not asking for a policy. Ms. Hunt?
Yes, thank you for your worship. Just to clarify, staff would not be reporting back at the next meeting with the report that Councillor Patterson is.
To the next council, not, sorry.
Oh, next council.
Following the election, not to the next council meeting.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, not for this council's consideration. Sorry if my language wasn't clear on that. Yeah, just want to make sure that we don't have any more time in this thing for that to come back. Okay. there a second?
I'll second that just just to hear the arguments that Councillor Patterson has around this, please.
Yep, it's moved and seconded. Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you. This motion does not approve or disapprove cannabis retail in Oak Bay today. It simply asks staff to bring council the information needed to consider whether Oak Bay should establish a clear local policy for non-medical cannabis retail stores. At present, Oak Bay is one of the few municipalities in the region without a pathway for provincially licensed cannabis retail, and a staff report would help council understand the provincial process, municipal zoning implications, public notification options, separation distances from sensitive uses, and approaches used by neighboring communities. I really see this as the governance piece that would be helpful as these types of operations may become, there may be more requests in the future. So I think it would be prudent upon us to have actually a governance policy by which we vetted them.
Okay, thank you. Discussion on the motion? No. Councillor Watson?
Could I ask a question? It's probably of staff. Do we have an equivalent policy for liquor retail?
Mr. Bull?
Through the mayor, to my knowledge, no, we do not.
I'm actually torn on whether to support this. I appreciate the report back is just a report on what it would take to do a report, but I also think these are so few and far between that the development of a report on this and policy is almost overkill for the rare times that we're going to be getting these applications. Probably support it because generally speaking, a report back on what's required is not an onerous task. All right, so the motion is to request a report back. I will call the question at this point. All those in favor? And those opposed? None opposed, that carries. So that report will come to the next council, not the next council meeting. Moving on to item 7.1, we have appointment of the Chief Financial Officer. Can I have someone read in the motion here?
Your Worship, I would move the staff recommendation or that council rescind the appointment of Michelle Hunt as interim Chief Financial Officer for the District of Oak Bay, and secondly, appoint Jennifer Lockhart as the Chief Financial Officer for the District of Oak Bay.
Is there a seconder? Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity. We were just in the transition period between Director of Finance and so our CAO stepped in and took on that role in the interim, but we're very pleased to have Jennifer Lockhart starting with us here. She joined us, the district, at the end of June for her first meeting in Oak Bay. She comes to this district with 11 years of experience in senior leadership and local government, most recently serving, if I get this wrong, you can correct me, as the Senior Manager of Financial Services for the District of Saanich. So we're just very pleased to welcome you to Oak Bay and look forward to working with you as you step into this role. Would you like to say anything?
Yes, thank you for the warm welcome, and I am too very excited to be here. It's a tremendous opportunity, and I look forward to serving all of the residents and the District of Oak Bay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lockhart. Very good. I'm now going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That carries, unsurprisingly, but good to have it, something that we do have to do. We move on to probably something that's a little less quick, is the 7.2, which is 2090 Cadboro Bay Road, Official Community Plan Amendment and Zoning Bylaw Amendment. Ms. Cook, we have with us our Senior Planner, and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening to yourself and council. This application is for a 5-story mixed-use multi-unit building located at 2090 Cadboro Bay Road at the corner of Cadboro Bay Road and Epworth Street. The application includes an OCP amendment to amend the neighborhood village designation in this location to increase the allowable height from 4 stories to 5 stories, a zoning bylaw amendment to create a comprehensive development zone that is site-specific to the proposal, and a commercial and mixed-use development permit application to manage the form and character. Excuse me. The residential component of the building includes 16 residential strata units, with 2 dwelling units proposed to be sold at below market rates to Habitat for Humanity or a similar entity. The building also includes a commercial ground floor, which is currently proposed to contain a hybrid daycare and co-working space. Further work is required to identify site-specific uses for the proposed commercial space. The application has been reviewed by the Advisory Design Panel on June 9th and the Advisory Planning Commission on June 17th. Both advisory bodies recommended approval with considerations, which are included in the staff report. The property is in a location that is supported by frequent transit, active transportation, commercial businesses, and recreational services, making the location appropriate for higher density development. Nonetheless, staff consider there are a number of outstanding matters that need to be addressed before the application can be supportable. Staff are therefore recommending that the application is referred back to staff to work with the applicant to address outstanding issues as outlined in the recommendation of the report. The applicant, Mr. Andrew Mills, is present today and has prepared a presentation for council. Excuse me. And I understand a representative from Nick Bray Architecture is also joining us online. After the presentation from the applicant, staff and the applicant are happy to take any questions that council may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Cook. Please come forward. It's the same process of just your name and municipality, residence, or business, and then you can have, normally we do about 5 minutes, but we can have up to 10 minutes, but I will cut you off after 10 minutes in the interest of making sure we have a chance to get to questions and discussion.
Do you mind going back to the start? Or can I do that? Yeah, I'll try.
It's working on the online version, but it's not working in here. So we're sharing, I think, maybe the wrong screen.
Yeah, this appears to be the end of the presentation, not the beginning.
Yeah, when you were scrolling backwards, it was the Zoom call showed the you scrolling backwards, but not the in-room presentation.
Well, I may start while we're waiting for this. There's not a lot of visuals at the beginning anyways.
Sure.
My name is Andrew Mills. I am representing Hazlitt Homes, and we're proposing development building at 2090 Cadboro Bay Road. I'll try to be as non-repetitive as possible because Ms. Cook described a lot of what we're doing here. So in essence, we've been working with staff, we've been through committees, and there's somewhat general recognition that the proposal is in line with the spirit and the intent of the neighborhood village designation from the OCP. We're looking for direction to determine whether we should continue on with this proposal. We are proposing an OCP amendment, as well as we are proposing fewer parking spaces than the bylaw suggests we should. And so, it's an expensive process to go through, and if there isn't support, then we'd rather know that now than come through to bylaw readings and such. So essentially, we're proposing a fifth story in the new neighborhood village designation, which calls for up to 4 stories. The context of that is that we initially started this application process, went through our first review during the old OCP when that designation called for 4 to 6 stories, and then it was reduced to 4 stories. And we're kind of stuck in the middle with an already in progress application. We believe it provides meaningful housing. Oh, we're here now. Meaningful housing benefit while maintaining, the OCP's overall design intent from the neighborhood village. We're proposing a transportation first, car light approach. The site is uniquely positioned within a neighborhood village, and there's excellent access to walking, cycling, and alternative forms of transportation. We're proposing a barrage of TDM measures to make up the shortfall if there is any. So the overview, Ms. Cook went through this largely. Our vision, though, is a mixed-use, walkable building designed to increase housing stock, reduce reliance on cars, and support local businesses and community life within that neighborhood village. Again, we're located at the corner of Cadboro Bay and Epworth, and the location really matters in this one. It's one of the few sites in Oak Bay that is in a neighborhood village and has such access to amenities so close. So to the south, I don't think this is a pointer. To the south, we have Oak Bay Rec, we have Oak Bay High, we have all those amenities. To the west, we have Fort and Fowl Bay within a less than 5-minute walk. To the east, we have existing purpose-built 3-4-story apartment-style buildings, likely from around mid-century sort of area. And then to the north along Epworth, we have traditional residential homes. We've biased setbacks to the south and to the east because that's really what the public experience will be of the building. Access to the commercial spaces off Cadboro Bay Road. Access to the residential area is about halfway up the lot off Epworth Street, and then currently access to the parking area is near the rear of the lot off of Epworth Street. We tried to build or propose a nice-looking building, heavy on articulation, vertical lines, varying materials and colors and textures to make it a pleasing building to look at. This is the Cadboro Bay Road frontage. And then we have the Epworth Road frontage, which is different but in a similar style. Oh, here we go. Each floor would be proposed to have 2 2-bedrooms, 2 1-bedroom units. 1-bedroom units are 700 to 800 square feet. 2-bedroom units are 11 to 1,200 square feet. We've tried to design nice layouts for those units. As Ms. Cook mentioned, we've been through ADP and APC, both with a recommendation for council approval with considerations. And overall, I think we are aligned with the OCP. We support compact, sustainable growth, which is what the neighborhood village is looking for. We're supporting active transportation and reducing greenhouse gases through travel. It's already supported by existing infrastructure and advances broader district policies for housing and sustainability. There are some issues to resolve. These are, I won't say minor issues because there's no such thing, but they're not to do with the OCP amendment necessarily. In as much as they aren't to do with the 5th story specifically. They're to do with facade improvements, glazing on commercial areas, how to implement something like a car share, how to implement non-market housing, how the systems will work, waste management, pickup, where it gets a stage before it's picked up, loading zones for commercial areas, that sort of thing. Again, important things, but not fatal issues to resolve as they are not necessarily related to the 5 stories. So the question we're looking to have answered from council is, if the 5th story is supportable, we feel it provides, a substantial community benefit that wouldn't otherwise be possible without 5 stories, and we feel it's in line with the spirit of the OCP. Likewise with the parking light approach, we feel like this strengthens the proposal. The OCP is not looking to prioritize and maximize parking. We're looking to reduce single occupancy vehicles, and we're looking to do that through location, walkability, TDM measures, et cetera. So again, I'm touched on this. Again, so I don't think we'll achieve OCP goals of reducing single occupancy driving by building lots of parking. I think there's tasteful ways to do it in the right location with the right TDM measures that will make a project like this viable and a positive for the community. And I'm not asking council to hope it will work. This is evidence-based. We have data to support that this sort of approach does work, referencing specifically a post-occupancy study on Shelbourne Street in Saanich. It was a larger building, again, a mixed-use building, ended up being built at half the amount of parking that we're proposing for this proposal, but it worked. The parking demand was accommodated on site. There was no spillover onto adjacent streets, And in essence, the TDM, the Transportation Demand Management Measures worked. Parking supply methodology worked. So I'm proposing more density than the OCP currently allows. I think it's an appropriate density. I think it's a positive for the community. The fifth story really is critical, though. It provides additional homes. It improves the project viability, and likely is the difference between the project proceeding or not. And we do this while aligning with, mostly with the OCP. Oh, here we go again. Oops. And so the request we're making today is not for a bylaw reading. The request is for direction. Should we continue down the road with this proposal, or is this fifth story a no-go for council? No. So is council supportive in principle of pursuing an OCP amendment to allow consideration of a 5-story mixed-use building on the site? And if they are, great, we continue along. We work with staff to perfect the proposal. If not, then we have to reconsider and potentially abandon it. Thank you very much, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mills. Much appreciated. That was a nice halfway, sort of 7.5 minutes. It's just about perfect between the 5 and the 10. I'm going to move over here to members of council. Procedurally here, as noted, this is not for public input at this time. Council, this is our first chance to look at it. As noted, either provide feedback for changes or no changes in advancing it, or decline. Those are the sort of 3 options available to us. Before we get there, we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and asking the appropriate questions to understand the context of the application. I have hands online first, so I'll go there. Councillor Smart and then Braithwaite.
Thank you. My first question is likely for staff, but perhaps for the applicant. So through you, Mayor, is there any additional information on how the stormwater management is being designed?
Yes, through you, Mayor. So stormwater servicing plan has been submitted with the application and has been reviewed by engineering. But as I understand, we have not received a full comprehensive stormwater management plan with the application so far. But the applicant may have further details on stormwater.
Through the mayor, I do not have further information on stormwater at this time.
Continue, Councillor Smart.
Well, thank you. My second and last question is the applicant open to other retail uses that would provide more direct community interaction, or is this project specifically reliant on the proposed ground floor uses?
Again, through the mayor, no, we're not married to the commercial use. It was sort of just a brainstorm of a possibility that could work there. Co-working and childminding, in my opinion, could be a good thing for the community, but there's lots of options retail-wise there.
Thank you. Going to Councillor Braithwaite online, and then Councillor
Thanks
Watson.
very much. Thanks very much, Mayor. Can you hear me?
You can. You started off quiet, but we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize for not being in chambers tonight, but I have a bit of a cold, so I didn't want to spread my germs. I do have a number of questions. And just to follow up on the question that Councillor Smart asked about the stormwater management, do you know where that might be on the site, or because it hasn't been planned so far, you're not really exactly sure where? Because it's such a small site, I wonder where it might be placed on the site.
Ms. Cook, do you wish to? I think at this point we don't have those details. Is that correct?
Yes, through you, Mayor. Yeah, we don't have those details. I'm not sure I totally understand the question. I suppose there's a number of different stormwater management tools that you can use through landscaping, like rain gardens or actual devices that are underground. But yes, currently that is not part of the current proposal.
Okay, thank you so much. And can staff just clarify how many legal dwelling units actually currently exist on this property?
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, so there is an error in the staff report that states that it's currently a single-family dwelling, but there is a basement suite, so there's two dwelling units on the property currently.
Okay, thank you. And then when I read the report, I was a little bit perplexed because when I look on page 29 to 34, it looks like there's 12 bedrooms and 12 two bedrooms and 4 single rooms. But in their letter on page 42, it says that there's actually 8 two bedrooms and 8 one bedrooms. So I'm wondering what we're seeing and why it's different than what perhaps the
I'll give that question to Mr. Mills. Do you have an accurate?
Yeah, through the mayor. So the initial proposal was for a variety of 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and one-bedroom units. However, we're proposing a single egress staircase, which is within provincial building code, however, is not supportable by our current fire department's capacity. And so the proposal was changed, but again, rather than redesigning and coming back with fully resolved plans, we discussed the getting a mandate from mayor and council before we do those changes. But no, the current plan is for 8 one-bedroom and 8 two-bedroom units.
Okay, so what we have in front of us, it's as you can understand, that we're seeing 2 different things that are in front of us. So that's why a bit of confusion there, I think. And also going along that same line of questioning around the commercial space fronting Cadboro Bay, you mentioned that it would be a childcare workspace, but then on another part of the plans it says that it's going to be in your letter from February, actually, it says it's going to be ground floor commercial space, and then so it could be like a boutique restaurant or a small retail. But so I'm confused as to whether or not it's going to be childcare spaces or it's going to be commercial residence or commercial retail.
Thanks for the question through the mayor. That's unresolved at this time. This is an empty space that we're proposing here, and the application has evolved since February. Certainly, I believe the mixed use commercial DPA calls for retail, so anything other than office space. So again, we are not married to a certain business in there. We envision for this building a commercial space that is more community oriented, something that doesn't draw people from far away, but is a center within the local community people can walk to, people can bike to. A co-working childminding is an option, coffee shop is an option, a hardware store is an option. Those are all retail. In fact, the childminding co-working space is technically not appropriate according to the commercial mixed-use DPA. But in essence, we're not married to anything. We don't have a plan for it. It's spitballing.
Thank you, because I do know that if you did have a childcare space, I believe there's a provincial requirement that you have to have outdoor space when you have a childcare space. So that might be something that you need to take into consideration if you go down that path. And then as far as the parking studies go, and this perhaps might go to staff, did we do any independent verification of the parking inventory in that area yet? Or is that something that would be in the future?
Ms. Cook.
Through you, Mayor. No, as the file manager, I did not do any independent, I suppose, site visits specific to the parking, on-street parking within the area. And as I understand it, engineering did not undertake an independent site visit either.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to hold off on the rest of my questions right now, and I'll let someone else, and you can maybe come back to me later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bully wanted to add something.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I would like to add that staff do review the methodology of the study and at a higher level, but further review will be needed to look into questions that were raised and further information that came up. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think to the point of the applicant, we're not getting into all the weeds today. This is kind of a first touch to see if there's a general feeling that this meets the general intention or not, and to give some direction if it does go forward. So appreciate that approach. And so I think we have to accept that there's going to be some slightly unanswered questions at this point because it's a slightly incomplete application. Councillor Watson next.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one question, and it is back to the single egress stair and the initial proposal. And it's really, I suppose, to staff. I know that we don't have fire services present here tonight, but I just wondered what the rationale, what the constraints are in Oak Bay that would prevent a single egress proposal being considered for this site. I know we have an outstanding request for a staff report and some policy options on this, but in the interim, why was this flagged by fire services?
Mr. Bull?
Thank you. Through the Mayor. The key consideration or concern is the size of the fire department and the ability to have sufficient staff show up to fight the fire, but also deal with any evacuation of the building. So that's where there are challenges that make higher buildings, and this is not a very high building just yet, but higher than I think the fire department would be comfortable with. That's at a high level my understanding of the concern. Thank you.
Right, and just to follow up, are those standards that are set provincially that they have to manage to? Again, you may be out of beyond what you can answer, but I am curious about that.
Sure, Mr. Bull.
Thanks through you, Mayor. Yeah, the province has allowed for this option, but with this option, the province has also outlined that there needs to be planning for those kind of situations, and that it needs to be determined if there is sufficient fire protection services available. And there's probably also other just regular requirements for fire departments. But I want to be clear that this is an option in the provincial legislation. It is not a outright allowable approach. It's subject to local conditions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That was my only question for clarification. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I don't have notes for other people on speaking list. Councillor Appleton, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, so I think this is a question for staff. I just wanted to talk briefly about the neighborhood village designation, and this is laid out and described by staff in attachment 14 to the staff report, and I appreciate this analysis, but I just wanted to confirm a couple of points. As I recall, during review of the draft OCP before it was finalized, this neighborhood designation included a 4 and up to 6 designation in previous iterations of the OCP, and as I recall, that 4 to 6, as it is 4 with up to 6, was actually revised for this specific site. It was originally proposed, but I think was brought forward as an amendment to have that be not 4 to 6 on this specific site as part of that OCP deliberation. Is that correct? And I don't mean to put staff on the spot.
Mr. Green?
Good evening, Your Worship, members of Council. Yes, that is correct. And so, yeah, Council, there was an amendment, I believe, in January of this year to try and revisit increasing the height at this location up to 6 stories, but that motion failed. The motion that did pass was in relation to the Cedar Hill, Henderson Road neighbourhood village, where the height was increased up to 6 stories.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, through your worship, and thank you for that. I'm aware of that amendment, but I think that was actually a later amendment. I think that the language to restrict 4 to 6 stories, where the language now states up to 6 stories may be considered only at the neighborhood village located at the intersection of Cedar Hill Crossroad and Henderson Road. I think that language was actually incorporated. The original language, as in the OCP debate, included 4 to 6 stories on all neighborhood village designations, if I'm correct.
Through Your Worship, yeah, I believe that is the case. That is correct.
So, if I can continue, Your Worship.
Please go ahead.
So, thank you for that. As a follow-up question with respect to that, so just for the clarity for council and members of the public, we do not, because the irrespective of whether this was 4 or 5 or 6 stories, it would still require a comprehensive development designation for this particular property because the design standards and the layout or the design requirements for the building are not yet in the zoning bylaw. That's correct?
Mr. Green, this is in respect to the current RM3, I guess, zoning.
Yeah, through your chair, perhaps I can clarify if we're talking about the OCP land use designation or the zone within the district's zoning bylaw. I guess from staff's perspective, we have determined that this triggered an OCP amendment given that this proposal is for 5 stories and the OCP specifically has a height limit of 4 stories at this specific location.
Thank you, Worship. I'm looking to clarify, for the purposes of clarifying for the public, there's a difference between the OCP policy CF3, which outlines, the built form characteristics and intended land use for the neighborhood village designation, and in fact what the property is currently zoned for, and what type of zoning would be required for the property to execute certain other types of built form. So it would be possible in this particular case, even though it is RM3, that depending on the nature of what was proposed, you would still need a CD zone to achieve the built form and characteristics as outlined in policy CF3.
Through your worship, yes, that is correct. They would still require, given that we don't have a 4-story mixed-use zone within the zoning bylaw, then it's likely that staff would recommend a CD zone until such time as we have zones that align with our land use designations in the OCP. Obviously, that is part of the pre-zoning work that staff has commenced this year.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. So that was the crux of what I was looking for confirmation on is that there is, at this stage of the game, not a misalignment, but we do not have, as Mr. Green has indicated, we do not have language in our zoning bylaw that allows us to directly execute the built form and characteristics and intended use that are outlined in the approved OCP policy for the neighborhood village designation. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the applicant or to staff? Go ahead, Councillor Green.
This is for the applicant, Mayor. Thank you for coming today and for the presentation. Following this conversation that we just had at the table, could you tell me what is preventing you from building something that is consistent with the current zoning that would not require a zoning amendment to our official community plan? Is there any reason why you couldn't reconfigure? Because it seems as though you're still in the sort of evolutionary process as you described it. And I also realize that you haven't actually met with the neighborhood since January, so you have made some changes and had some thoughts. And so timely consultation with the neighborhood would be helpful, I think. But in that evolution, was it ever discussed to build something that was consistent, that didn't require, an amendment to the OCP as it stands? Thank you.
Mr. Mills.
Through your worship, thank you for the question. Essentially, that comes down to financials, really. A 4-story building on this site with the expenses one encounters, TDM measures, elevator, upgraded seismic sort of costs with the new building code. It's just not feasible to make it work on this site. So the 5-story, it's really 5 stories, or it's going back to sort of Bill 44 and the SSMUH guidelines, which would typically allow 4 sort of townhouses on this site. So it's up in the air, which is why we're here, right? And so we're going to see if we can get 5 stories, and if we can, or if we can get support for that, then we'll proceed. But the 4 stories won't be viable, and we're left with kind of an SSMUH sort of development.
And one more follow-up question through you, Mayor, to the applicant. You mentioned Habitat for Housing. How far along are you in those negotiations with Habitat for Housing? And the reason I ask is I'm familiar with that organization. They normally build for families, not for individuals in a single unit. So I'm just wondering where you are at with your conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, through the mayor, we've had preliminary discussions. There's interest. There's barriers in the way, most notably, sort of down payment sort of funds. And Habitat, I mean, they have a variety of ways of implementing their housing goals, and one of those is to essentially buy something in pre-sale at a reduced rate, and then hold that, or essentially broker a sale with a covenant on title. And so we're not very far down that road. But certainly if it's not Habitat for Humanity, there's multiple mechanisms to implement a non-market housing. And that was one of the issues I discussed. That's one of the things we need to resolve. How do we actually do that? Is it Habitat? Is it someone else? Is it through me?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Any other first-time speakers? I just have a couple of questions here. I mean, I guess I'll pre-front this a little bit. And there's a comment in the report just, speaking to the fact this is a small lot for doing this, and 6,000 or 600 square meters versus 2,000 as a minimum for RM3, and it kind of carries over with the setbacks and so forth. And I guess I'm going to just touch on that language in there. Is there any potential here for doing a land assembly that would kind of allow for this to kind of reduce some of the, because we're talking about 5 stories here as an OCP amendment, we're asking for a significant amount of variances attached to setbacks on all 4 sides. So just curious if that had been looked at, or if that's a feasible thing in this market to do any kind of land assembly.
Thank you for the question. There's always possibilities. I have spoke to the owners next door, in fact, the adjacent property and the property next door to that. Developer, right? And so that would look like sort of me moving away, me abandoning the project, right? Which come what may, but again, that's why we're here to sort of determine the feasibility of that. And if unfortunately, if it doesn't work, that would be unfortunate, but it also gives us direction to sort of move on from it. So at this time, a land assembly is not really on the table.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mills. And the second question I had is specific to the setbacks, and that's just on the interior side lot, which is adjacent to the building, which requires 6 meters and is there at 0.07, which is basically nothing. Just perhaps you could just touch on that, because it obviously would, given that there are windows on that side of the building, it limits the development capacity of the lot adjacent to it. So if you can just sort of talk to that setback ask.
Yeah, so my understanding is with the comprehensive design district, there is no set minimum setback. May I ask, are you referring to the RM3 zoning bylaw?
Correct, yeah. So the RM3, I mean, all of our zoning has some setback requirements on all 4 sides. So obviously there's substantial, again, this is tied to the size of the lot, but I'm just talking very specifically about that interior side lot, which is the one adjacent to the next building, which is listed here as I read it, 0.07 meters, 7 centimeters. The setbacks for most of the things in that area are 6 meters. So
yeah,
it seems like it would
be a
impact
zero setback for sure.
Yeah.
And again, that's tied to the size of the lot. And the option is to center the building towards Epworth, reduces that setback. Especially with the double egress staircase now, it's tough to make all of that work while maintaining sort of the parking supply that we're offering, commercial space, and there's actually an access requirement off that interior lot as well. So yeah, certainly consideration was given to making the best possible siting that is possible. But my understanding was that there wasn't actually a CD specific setback requirement, and those are just built into whatever that CD zone ends up being. But staff may be able to answer that better than I can.
No, it's fair. I mean, you're right in that the sense there was no, you can ask for anything in a comprehensive development piece, but perhaps can you just, given it's essentially a 0 meter setback and there are windows on that side of the building, it does sort of force, the reason we have setbacks is to make sure that there's airspace given by both parties there. So that was primarily the source of my question is, I guess, is that it doesn't sound like it's very movable given there's only about 5 feet on the other side of the building to move it to the property line as well.
Yeah, I mean, certainly where there's a will, there's a way. If setback ends up being a barrier for mayor and council, then that's part of the mandate we're looking to get. Okay. Can we work with staff? I mean, it's a tight site, as you can see. So I'm not sure if it can or not, but certainly that's something I'm more than willing to work on.
Okay. Thank you for that. I have a second time speaker. The first time, go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Thank you. I just had a question for staff with regards to the single egress stair approach being denied by the fire department and just the potential loss of those larger family-oriented units. I had understood when the fire department had requested a mention of potentially limiting single egress stair applications, as I mentioned in the OCP, that single egress stair applications would still be reviewed on a project by project basis. So I'm wondering, did this specific review take place, and what are the criteria that the fire department reviews, and can this be made available to council? I guess particularly looking at this project on a corner site with a laneway, there's good access. We also have other 5-story buildings in Oak Bay, and I'm just wondering, was there discussion around whether 4 stories would be supportable with a single egress stair design or a slightly fewer units? I'm just curious to hear more about that specific review that took place so that we can learn more about how we can bring this important housing typology to the district that provides so many more opportunities for livable units and more housing options for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smart. We don't have the fire chief in the room today, so I'll give it to Mr. Bowl.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I don't know the details of the exact criteria, but I do know and can confirm that this is always considered on a case-by-case basis. And there have been some scenarios, but there are much lower buildings where single egress can be supported. But the exact criteria and reasons why that could not be supported in this case, I cannot comment on the specifics. Thank you.
Anything else, Councillor Smart? Okay, Councillor Braithwaite for a second time.
Thank you, Mayor. I think these questions are probably for staff. There was a number of pieces of correspondence that came in that had some questions that I thought perhaps you'd be able to answer. And one of the questions was about the public information meeting that was held by the proponent on January 8th. And there was a suggestion that it didn't meet the legal requirements of the development application procedures bylaw. And I'm wondering if staff can touch on that, if they have any information about that.
Ms. Cook?
Thank you for the question through you, Mayor. Yes, so a public information meeting was held and we reviewed it against the development application procedures bylaw. I guess one thing that is still in question is that this meeting was held before the public was aware that there was an OCP amendment. So I guess where we're at in this stage of the process, we're not at bylaw readings, kind of getting that first feedback from council. But if this application was to proceed, we would be happy to work with the applicant to set up another public information meeting that they can have, as well as if an OCP amendment is moving forward, there's also a public hearing requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. And then also another question that was raised was about the errors in the parking study that were presented to the APC on June 17th. And so I'm wondering, has the APC seen the actual updated parking study, or were they basing their comments, etc., on the unupdated one?
Ms. Cook?
Thank you for the question through you, Mayor. Yes, the Advisory Planning Commission did have the updated parking study included as an attachment in that report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, over to this table here, we have a recommendation here for, should this advance, was to ask the staff to work with the applicant to address a number of the points there. But I think as noted by the applicant, this is the chance to also provide any additional feedback, or if there isn't going to be support for the OCP amendment or other aspects of this is an opportunity to provide that feedback here as well. So with that, I'm going to go back to folks at this table, and we can have either a motion on the floor. It's probably the simplest thing to do. Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Your Worship, I would move the staff recommendation.
So moved, seconded. And applicant isn't leaving the room, but we may have some more additional questions that come out of the debate, but no, you can sit down. It's good. Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'll speak in favor of the staff recommendation. I think that there is, especially because there is ample language in the staff recommendation proposing quite a bit of additional work to address some of the questions that have come up from the advisory body review of the application. So I see that there is an active and deliberate response proposed in the staff recommendation to address that. I recognize that there is a fairly significant scope in development. I do not consider it to be out of line with the neighborhood village designation, because as I've spoken to here previously, the neighborhood village designation, as originally contemplated in the OCP, did contemplate 4 to 6 stories on all neighborhood village designation areas. And as we also confirmed with staff, even a 4-story building on this site, if we were going to propose a 1-story reduction, even a 4-story would trigger comprehensive development type of structure here. We don't have the zoning tools in place to execute the vision that is laid out in the neighborhood village designation, which is in the approved OCP. So because we do not have those things in place at this time, then I feel that projects which broadly fit with the OCP policy for the neighborhood village designation warrant consideration both by council and advisory bodies, and warrant working deliberately to try and address the issues that are laid out here in the staff recommendation. So I do believe it has enough merit to go forward, and should the applicant be successful in addressing some of the things that are included here in the staff recommendation, then I would look forward to it going to readings and also having a public hearing in keeping with its CD designation. So the staff or the public would have an opportunity to weigh in on the extent to which the applicant has responded to the specifications in the neighborhood village designation in the approved OCP. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. I have Councillor Watson, then Braithwaite, speaking to the motion.
Yes, thank you. And I'm also, as Councillor Appleton has enumerated, in favor of taking this forward. I think that there's a reasonable grouping of additional information, additional study, additional work requests to help flesh this out. But I was, in thinking about what should be happening in neighborhood villages, when the applicant referred to the idea of the other option being single small scale multi-unit housing, 4 units per lot, I would see that not consistent with what we're trying to achieve in this location, and it would be a real lost opportunity. So I think that there is an opportunity here. It needs further work. One thing I would just add is that when the advisory design panel, I am liaison to that group, discussed this project, they identified it in their own language as kind of the gateway project for this neighborhood village area. And so they saw it as an important and prominent site, and not necessarily just this site, but the neighboring properties to the west. And I think that there's opportunity absolutely here, which the applicant is showing that he's prepared to do more investigation of. So I'm happy to move this. I'll be supporting the motion to move this forward with the staff recommendation.
Thank you. I have on my speakers list Councillors Braithwaite, Green, and Patterson.
Thanks very much, Mayor. And I'm going to be speaking against the motion. And it's not whether I support housing, it's really about whether the proposal to me aligns with the planning framework that council has adopted for our OCP. So I'm also not really sure about the difference in the staff in the plans that the staff have in their report and the applicant's plans that are in their portion of the report. I think there's too many differences there. And I also believe that the integrity of the OCP is in jeopardy. And our OCP is less than 7 months old. And residents, I think if we moved ahead with something like this, or if we're suggesting that something like this is acceptable, then the residents could they could really lose confidence in what we are putting forward as our OCP. So I really strongly feel that way about that. I think it should be consistent with our current zoning. And I'm really concerned about the lack of proposed parking, especially if there's a commercial area in there. And we're asking for, we're asking for up to 8 changes, for them to go and consider up to 8 changes that we're suggesting. And that's just so many. And I'm not confident that the applicant can come back with something that's actually going to fit into what I would consider should be fitting into our OCP. I think 3 stories would be better. And I think that the community would feel a lot better about 3 stories in this area. So sadly, I can't, even though I would like to see some increased housing on that corner, I can't support this even going back to the proponents to have some modifications, because I don't believe that the modifications that will come back will fit in with what we want to see in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Braithwaite. I have next Councillor Green and then Patterson, and then I'm assuming Councillor Smart, you'd like to speak to it as well.
Thank you very much. This is difficult. I will not be supporting the motion. I feel this is a very hypothetical proposal. There are too many uncertainties embedded in the proposal, and I really appreciate the staff report bringing to our attention at least 8 shortcomings that require attention. I appreciate that. But there are a couple of things that I'm concerned about. One is the Bowker Creek watershed and watercourse. And that involves the stormwater runoff. And we did receive an email from our Director of Engineering today specifically talking about that. And so without a stormwater plan or water management plan on site, I'm concerned about the runoff and what impact that might have on Bowker Creek. And the Friends of Bowker Creek have spoken about that very clearly. And in fact, I met with them not that long ago, and they are very concerned about anything that occurs within 3 blocks, within a 3-block radius around the Bowker Creek watercourse. I'm concerned about the lack of timely consultation with the neighborhood, and the fact that it occurred before there was a zoning amendment or a bylaw amendment required for the OCP. I'm also concerned about the parking, both street parking and the lack of on-site parking. I think we've already seen the impacts of inadequate parking on other small streets and those with resident-only parking. I'm trying to envision where people will park, and I think it's a wonderful ideal to assume that people won't use cars or have cars, but I think the reality is that we still have motor vehicles accessing and egressing properties like this. I think a 3-story, is there an echo? Sorry.
There is an echo. Somebody's, I think, got their their speaker turned up on their laptop. Keep speaking.
There is also, I've lost my train of thought now with the echo. I know, 3 stories would be very applicable and very doable on this site. We also haven't gotten into the process of village planning yet. We talk a lot about village plans, but we haven't actually undertaken the planning process. I think we need to be careful about that when we're looking at amending the OCP around village centers and village plans. And so therefore, I would like to see this go back. I think the applicant said it himself. This has been very much an evolutionary process. I think there is still good information to bring forward, but in its current state, I cannot support it. I would rather see it denied, and then they can sit down with staff. I'm not in a position to direct the applicant in what he or she should do next. I don't feel I have enough information, and there is not enough certainty in this report. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. I now go to Councillor Patterson, then Councillor Smart for comments on the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will not be supporting the motion as it stands. And primarily that is because the applicant has come forward to say if we agree to the dimensions, really the height and the footprint of the building, then perhaps they will work on these things. And I find that that's not tremendously useful in making a decision at the council table. When this application actually went to the advisory planning committee for consideration, the motion to approve it failed 3 times before the committee decided on letting it go forward and outlining the strong concerns they had as a committee about the application. And the staff our district staff here have done a very good job in capturing many of these concerns in what the recommendation is. However, it's the concerns of the committee, and it was a fairly lengthy discussion, was how even things like having to reverse in and or out of the parking that was there was a safety risk, and they did not see a path forward to resolving that satisfactorily. So it's, and certainly in our OCP, the mixed-use development permit area does say that we will respect and enliven the character and streetscape of commercial areas and contribute to the neighborhood's sense of place. And we didn't see that, the committee did, and myself. I don't see that demonstrated in what is before us. And so it's, there are so many unknowns to this that I simply can't support it moving forward at this point in time, especially if it's the applicant's expectation that we are, as a council, if this moves forward, agreeing to the dimension, the scale, the height, the footprint of the building as it is. It's a very, it's not a large, Mayor, as you pointed out, it is not a large property to do this type of development.
Thank you, Councillor Smart, and then I will speak to the motion. Please go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Thank you. I am supportive of the motion put forward, which essentially outlines the next steps to improve and coordinate concerns with the proposal to date, with the 2 specific asks of clarification from the applicant on whether a 5th story and a car light parking approach are potentially supportable. With regards to 5 stories being supportable and this location being able to support a car light approach, the site is located within a designated neighborhood village close to shops, schools, recreation facilities, parks, services, active transportation, and transit routes. So this is the type of location where we can provide more housing opportunities and we can consider a car light approach with regards to the parking. I have heard great interest from residents towards encouraging our growth in our urban village areas to support a healthy community where we do have these different housing size opportunities that support different stages of life. And I've heard a lot of support for this versus concentrating our housing within our single family fabric. So I do believe the proposed project is supportable to go forward with these next considerations, particularly so that we can look at details like our stormwater management and we can.
Councillor Smart, if you can hear me, you've frozen on our end. And may not notice that because we don't look all that active on the small screen. Probably will notice here in just a minute that there's no response. But Councillor Smart, if you can hear me, we cannot hear you. I think we just lost her, but I'll just, if you don't mind, we'll give her just a moment to come back into the meeting. Anybody know any good show tunes that we could, oh, here we go, thankfully. Welcome back, Councillor Smart. You're just, you got cut off there about a minute ago.
Yes, and I'm not sure exactly where.
You were just talking about stormwater, things like stormwater could come back.
Fantastic. We'll just wrap up then by just saying that I would really appreciate seeing, as much as I believe that the proposed ground floor uses would be highly desirable in our community, I would appreciate seeing in this particular location retail, restaurant, or service uses that have more community engagement with the general public just to activate the streetscape. And that's the end of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smart. My observations here on this one are, I guess, in response to a couple of the comments. I do think that, while the village planning process is still to come, it doesn't preclude us from considering these applications on their merits. Whether you think 4 stories, 3 stories, 6 stories is the appropriate scale of that, we consider it. And so it's okay for us to look at this prior to the village planning process. I'm going to have to speak shortly because my voice is not going to last. I'm not also concerned with details like stormwater. If it proceeds, that would be dealt with at the end of the day, and we could consider the details at that point. So I'm not weighing those things into my consideration here. I would also say that at a broad strokes, there's no one aspect of and I'll talk about this sort of this street, this block, that would preclude it from having 4 or 5 stories. I think, again, we're looking at some village planning pieces, and we could consider that. My biggest issues with the application, and I'm inclined to think that we're better off, I think a better kindness here maybe just to decline the application at this point, is really just structured not around any specific aspect of the application, but the reality that it's a 600 square meter lot, which is basically a small single family lot, in which we're trying to apply a large multifamily building onto, and it just brings constraints that are very difficult. So if we're looking at the setbacks on all 4 sides, they're very, very reduced from what we expect in multifamily in Oak Bay. The building height, substantial, I think would be manageable, but probably with there was, again, some greater setbacks, which a larger lot would allow. Same with things like lot coverage and floor area ratios. They're significant, 3 times higher than the zoning allows, but they're also 2 to 3 times higher. But again, those are things that we could consider, but they often require some setbacks and things that are just not feasible in a small lot. I do think things like the location for parking demand management is a reasonable thing. I don't think we require as much parking here as we do in some other parts of the community. And I don't even think, I think, the motion here asking for further work to be done on that makes sense. So my issues here are primarily around the setbacks, the height, particularly the interior side lot setback. But I think given the nature of this type of building, there are very limited amounts of things that can be done about that. And again, I think there's a significant difference between 5 stories on a very small lot with small setbacks, and there is a 5-story building on a street where there's substantial setbacks. So for those reasons, I think the proper thing to do here is that, again, I want to just highlight that no one of these things is a bullet that shouldn't be considered. It's reasonable to do reduce setbacks. It's reasonable to consider higher height. It's reasonable to consider reduced parking. But I look at the cumulative total on this application, and it seems like it exceeds the amount that is probably reasonable given the location. And again, I think this is really not down to anything other than it's an incredibly difficult and small lot to try and put these things on. I would just, the only other comment I would say on this one in terms of considering ground floor commercial use, I do think it's critical. It's highlighted in the OCP about the importance of not moving commercial off of the ground floor and it up into second story commercial. I do think that it should be our top priority if we're going to be considering. I'd rather not see retail on the ground floor personally than to see ground level commercial. I think that we're better off having more housing in that situation than we are trying to look at ground level commercial. So that's where I'm sitting at right now on this one, is I think that the cumulative total makes the motion not supportable, and I'll leave it there. Is any other discussion on the motion that's on the floor? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And those opposed? I have Councillor Braithwaite, Green, Patterson, and myself opposed. So that motion fails.
So, Mayor, do we need a motion to deny?
We would require, I'll just turn to staff to make that clarification, but I believe, yes, it would be appropriate to have a motion to deny the application in its current
I would make
form.
that motion.
So a motion to deny the application in its current form?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. So obviously not in favor of the motion on the floor. I'll just take the opportunity just to reiterate what I said when a similar proposal in the neighborhood was being considered recently, which is that the OCP as adopted, in my view, provides such a limited amount of, there's so much correspondence that makes reference to adherence to the OCP. And unfortunately, in my view, the OCP as adopted provides such limited opportunities for density and additional housing that it actually, as it has been implemented, it actually erodes the ability to provide certainty. All new proposals that look to accomplish a density goal in a neighborhood village designation, which is what this is, will require CD zoning, they will require spot zoning, they will require special dispensations because the OCP as adopted significantly reduced the amount of density available on lots. So this type of approach, unfortunately, although I can appreciate when folks point out the need to be adherent to the OCP, unfortunately the restrictiveness of the OCP requires that to achieve the goal of the neighborhood village designation, which is outlined in the staff report and includes a 4 to 6 story building for these types of designations. To achieve that, you need to do a spot zoning, which we've heard over and over again from members of the public that they do not wish to see. So this is exactly the same issue that cropped up with the previous submission of this type. And when and if a revised submission comes back, it will have the exact same issues to deal with. So I just want to be really clear that the OCP designation and the OCP policy for a neighborhood village does provide for this type of density, but the inability for us to execute that through zoning is what's putting us into this spot. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Appleton. On the motion to deny, I have Councillor Smart and then Green. And Watson.
Thank you. I'm obviously not in support of the motion. I do see that this is the type of location that our community has been asking for us to support with regards to housing options to take away the pressure from infill housing and changing the fabric of our residential neighborhoods. And so I really feel that we need to take this application to the next stage to see how staff can work with the applicant on the recommendations that are listed in the report. I do think there's a lot of potential in this application and was really looking forward to seeing the potential to bring more housing opportunities to our community. So I won't be supporting the application.
Supporting the motion, you support the application, not the motion.
Sorry.
Nope, just to be clear. Councillor Green, then Watson.
Thank you. I will be supporting the motion. And I just want to respond to some comments about the official community plan. I recall very distinctly the public hearing. I recall the community outreach around the around the official community plan, and I recall that this council, the majority of this council, voted to scale back some of that density at the request of the community because there is an operative word in official community plan. That is, the plan belongs to the community. So I think we were responding in a responsible manner. We did not say no density. We scaled back the extent of density, especially on properties that buffer established neighborhoods. And I really think that's important. And so I just want to respond to that. This version of the official community plan was purposeful, and it was responding directly to what the community was asking. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that we've had a bit of discussion around the relation to the OCP, because this is an OCP amendment. I'm going to ask everybody just mostly keep your comments on the application here and the merits of approval or denial. Motion on the floor right now is to deny. I have Councillor Watson next, and then Patterson.
Thank you. As I know, you already know, I will not be supporting the motion to deny. I think it's disappointing that we wouldn't allow the opportunity for the examination and exploration of the creative potential of this site. It is in a designated neighborhood village area, and therefore we need to expect a different building form and treatment in order to achieve our planning goals and our housing goals. I just wanted to underline that with respect to the correspondence we received tonight, we had many letters from people who would like to see this move forward. We haven't yet been able to, I think, find a place where we can come to say yes to anything. And the applicant asked the question, if not here, where? Well, I think if not here, where? I think it's a great question to ask. I would just also comment that notwithstanding the view that maybe it's asking for too much for a small lot, we had what I felt was a very good proposal just down the street with very generous setbacks, and it still got a no. So I'm really, really concerned that we're basically signaling to the development community, don't come to Oak Bay. We've got nothing for you. We're never going to say yes. And it would have been, we didn't have to say yes to a revised proposal, but we've now limited our opportunity to see what could be done on this site at a gateway to our community on the very strip that we say has to be for a neighborhood village. So I'm kind of extremely perplexed that we're looking at a denial. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Patterson next.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will speak in favor of the motion to deny the application. And certainly I spoke to a number of the reasons why I wouldn't move it forward. But as I look at the list of what would be referred back to staff to work with the applicant, I think that an applicant coming with an application to council, a professional developer should have worked through most of the logistics of this and been coming forward, I believe, with something that already had a lot of clarity. We are a small community. Our building and planning department is not large, and I don't think it is really up to our staff to work on finding all of the solutions to this. I think it really is the responsibility of an applicant to come forward with something that does meet not just the housing in the OCP, but again, the enlivening the character and streetscape of a commercial area. It is a gateway to a commercial area, and certainly that stretch along there is suitable to multi-residential housing because it is so well situated to amenities for residential housing. But that area within the community is also a very heavily used area as it exists today. So yes, I understand that there was several pieces of correspondence from people who don't live close to that area, may not know how it all functions, but the transportation issues are not insignificant around the area. I think if we're going to have commercial space, it has to be something to enliven commercial space. Otherwise, I think then the focus could be more on simply having housing. But we also have the complexities of being a fully built-out community, and that makes it more challenging, I recognize, for developers to find lots that can reasonably be readapted to multi-residential or mixed-use commercial areas. So it is challenging, but in some of the other neighborhoods throughout the region, that has been done through land assembly to achieve the goals of what those communities want. And so I think that we do need to ensure that what is developed in Oak Bay works for Oak Bay, not just to check boxes of how many housing units we're getting, but what it is doing for the fabric of the community on a longer term basis. And if we allowed this to go forward, it really would then just keep the problem then moving along beside it, because the setbacks are so small that it just further constrains us. So I'll support the motion to deny the application.
All right, the motion to deny is on the floor. I'll just add a couple extra comments on this. And first, I do appreciate, I know there's been some concerns about perhaps an incomplete application. I think this is good. I think given the consideration of the scale of the ask, I think it's good to have a touch point for us to have it to see if it meets. This is a very constrained site and very difficult, and I think so I think having it here for this kind of feedback, either it has enough merit to go forward or not, is exactly the job that we do. I also just think that, I think we all can support this type of housing, but again, we have a very specific ask in front of us today, and that's kind of the merits that I'm weighing this on. I do take the point that, the zoning is not caught up to the OCP, and the OCP, frankly, is likely to change as we go through a village planning process. And I think what we can't do on this site, as an example, that we can do once we have completed that process and why it's important, I think is really highlighted by that one of the numbers that's in front of us, which is the essentially 0 meter setback on the interior lot line. That because it has windows, it means that the next neighbor over has to leave space for light to get into. If we set the zoning so those setbacks are 0, then you can have buildings adjacent to each other and abutting and using more of the land more efficiently. So we do have to do some planning work, and we have to do that. I think the difficulty here is we're asking for, the question here is, on this 600 square meter lot, is the ask reasonable on the face of it? And I think the problem is that the reason I'm at my point of this one is that I think those specifics of this specific application, I have a hard time supporting, just for those reasons. So I'm going to call the question now on the motion. All those in favor? And those opposed? I have Councillor Watson, Appleton, and Smart opposed. That motion carries. Mr. Mills, I'm sorry that did not work out for you tonight, but I hope the quick answer at least is some help in the process. We are going to move on next item on the agenda. I notice there's a number of people probably in the room that came here for that one item, and you're welcome to leave at this time. Just ask that you do so quietly so we can continue on with our work. Our next item on the agenda is open for public input. That is 8.1. We have Uplands Development Variance Permit. We have Mr. Hadfield here, one of our planners. Welcome, Mr. Hadfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. The district has received a development variance permit application for the property located at 3280 Uplands Road to facilitate the retention of an existing shed on the property. The shed is non-conforming to the setbacks and minimum building separation regulations of the R2 zone. Staff are recommending that the development variance permit application be approved, given the requested variances are fairly minor in scale. The shed is screened from view from the street, and given it has been built in keeping with the character of the existing home. The applicant, Louis Horvat of Zebra Design, is in attendance tonight to answer any questions council might have. Staff are also available to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hadfield. Applicant is here. I'm not sure we're going to need to talk to you, so just stay there. So, but procedurally, this is helpful for things that are open for public input. We do generally have questions of council to either the applicant or to staff if there's any questions. At the conclusion of the questions, we will then invite the public to come and speak to council with any comments or questions. At the conclusion of that, we will come back to this table and put a motion on the floor, debate that, and advance it. So, thank you for the introduction, Mr. Hadfield. I'm going to turn on this application at 3280 Uplands Road. Are there any questions for the applicant or to staff? Seeing none. Are there any members of the public who wish to address council on the variance being asked for on this application? This is the shed at 3280 Uplands Road, which is asking for a setback, side yard setback variance. Did I get that right, or is it a rear yard setback? I can't, better be careful I don't just say that in the record.
Interior side yard setback
Interior.
and building separation distance. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. I'm not seeing any hands popping up wishing to speak to the variance. I will come back to this table for a motion. Go ahead, Councillor Green. You can just move the staff recommendation if you wish.
I'm prepared to make the staff recommendation, the motion that council approve the development variance permit DVP 00184 for the property located at 3280 Uplands Road.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much. It was a less complicated application than the last one, so thank you. We move on to 8.2, 3160 Exeter Road. This is both a development variance permit and an upland setting and design. I'll let Mr. Hadfield introduce this. There is a slight restriction on this in that we can take public input on the variance, but not on any of the design criteria, aspects of this application. Mr. Hadfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. The district has received an upland siting and design and development variance permit application for the property located at 3160 Exeter Road to facilitate the addition to an existing non-conforming single-family dwelling on the property constructed in 1969. The applicant is proposing to renovate the exterior of the building and attached deck, as well as add a new covered entrance onto the building's north side. A variance is required to construct this entrance, as the existing building is legally non-conforming to the interior side setbacks of the R2 zone, and this new entrance will project further into this setback. The applicant is also proposing to retain and repair an existing greenhouse in the rear of the property, which is non-conforming to the setbacks of the R2 zone and similarly requires a variance. The application was presented to the Advisory Design Panel at their meeting on June 9th, 2026, who recommended that the upland siting and design application be approved. Staff find that the requested variances would increase the utility of an older home, enable a practical greenhouse building to be retained, and would result in only minor changes to the existing development patterns of the site. Staff are recommending the uplands siting and design and development variance permit applications be approved. The applicant Ian Roberts and landowner Christian Tocher are in attendance in person tonight to answer any questions council might have. Staff are available also to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hadfield, for the report. Again, same process. I'm going to turn to members of council to see if I have any questions related to the development variance permit or the setting and design. Seeing none, I'm going to invite any public input into the variances being requested. Seeing none, either online or in person, I'm going to come back to this table. Go ahead, Councillor Watson.
I'm going to move the staff recommendation that council approve development variance permit DVP 00190 for the property located at
I'm going to do them
3160.
separately, so
Oh, you are, yes, I'll do that.
separately.
Yeah, yes, that's
So
what I was
the
going to do.
motion on the floor is for the DVP approval. Moved and seconded.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed, none opposed? And then setting and design?
That council approve upland setting and design permit to ADP 00204 for the property located at 3160 Exeter Road.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Watson.
Yes, I just want to add, although we've already voted on the variance permit, I just wanted to note that although it's out of scope, I mean, it was out of scope, that one of the compliments that came on these renovations to this home to make really minor changes to give it some new life is that the changes to the entryway were really appreciated as minor adjustments to give it more prominence as the way into the home. So without those changes, we probably wouldn't need the variance, but they work together as a nice package, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Or that's what the design panel thought.
Sure. Go ahead, Councillor Green, before I call the question.
Yes, through you, I just wanted to thank the applicants for saving the home. So many of we are losing these homes, particularly in the uplands, and I'm very grateful to you for saving it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other comments, yeah, good luck with the project. I'm going to call the question now. All those in favor? Any opposed, none opposed? Thank you and take care. We move, and you're welcome to leave as well. There's no requirement to stick around. We move to item 8.3. Now, Councillor Green, you need to recuse yourself.
I have to recuse because this involves, I'm a co-owner of the property. Thank you.
Thank you. just ask that you go into the committee room and we'll wait for the door to close before we consider this application. Back to you, Mr. Hatfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. The district has received a development variance permit application for the property located at 1059 Roslyn Road to facilitate the retention of an existing heat pump serving an accessory dwelling unit on the property. The heat pump was sited within the 1.5 meter setback from a property line to a heat pump and is located adjacent to the property's rear lot line, which is adjoined by a lane. Staff are recommending the development variance permit be approved subject to the submission of further visual screening design information to the Director of Community Building and Planning satisfaction. Staff find the requested heat pump siting to be largely unproblematic from a noise perspective, but would encourage the applicant to explore a more comprehensive solution for visual screening, like landscape screening or extending the property's fence line. The applicant, Paul Cosgrave, is in attendance online tonight to answer any questions council might have. Staff are also available to answer questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see the applicant online. Oh, here. Okay, there we go. Not online, in person. Thank you for that. So back, same process as before. This is open for public input. But first, we'll take questions of council, seek public input, and then come back to this table for further direction. So with that, are there any questions to staff? Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through you to staff. Could staff confirm whether applicants are required to identify the proposed location and specifications of heat pumps when the applications are made? And secondly, whether we also provide applicants with a copy of our best practice for siting of heat pumps?
I'm not sure who to give that to. Mr. Bull, Mr. Hatfield, Mr. Green.
Yeah, thank you. The requirement for heat pumps is in the grand scheme of things, a relatively newer kind of building code requirement in terms of adding those. Additionally, we changed our heat pump regulations somewhat recently, but I can confirm that typically during the application process at this time, we do ask applicants to identify the heat pump locations to confirm conformance with our setback requirements. As mentioned in the report, during the time of this application, that was not completed. Yes. In regards to you had a question about the supplementary kind of materials and that kind of brochure. I can confirm that in these cases where people have questions about heat pump siting, what our regulations are, we do provide that kind of more publicly accessible or more digestible kind of form of information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Please continue.
Yes, thank you. And one other question for staff who would be familiar with the site. Just a comment on pre and post construction. What options were there for situating the equipment that would have aligned with our building regulations here in Oak Bay and best practice siting guidance for a heat pump?
Yeah, perhaps I can essentially state staff's position, and then perhaps we could go to the applicant. Staff's position is that siting positions were available on that south side of the building, that, if this was identified earlier during the design process and, kind of given those different setback options, that there was yard space available to be able to site a heat pump and in conformance with those setback requirements.
Mr. Cosgrove, wish to maybe answer that question a bit more fulsomely?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for taking on my submission today. When we designed this house, I didn't know and didn't realize that there was a layout and requirements from Oak Bay for where the heat pumps should be. There's an excellent diagram and stuff available now from Oak Bay for this, which we're currently using on 2 upcoming projects. When we designed the house, we wanted to add the heat pump to go for as high energy efficiency because this building is going to be around with this family for many years to come. And when I design houses, we make it as efficient as possible. So when we located where the heat pump would be and the air handler would be for this project, we looked around the sort of the size of the house On one side of the house, there was an existing mature garden that we're trying to preserve, including a tree that was in very close proximity. The other side was our laneway access for quite a wide bike for mobility for one of the homeowners. And so not thinking really too much about where the heat pump would go, we do know that they usually have to be in close proximity to the air handler to achieve the efficiency. The alternative places for the house were on the far side of the building, which would have exceeded the limits. It was over 60 feet away. So there's limits to how far these lines for the refrigerant can travel from the air handling condenser to the air handling unit. So just thinking the way I think things, we're like, well, we'll just put it on the opposite side of the wall into the laneway, and it's out of the way of any fire department access on all sides of the building. And it was on the laneway where it wouldn't interfere with anything else. And not knowing about, just thinking about the efficiency of where this item should be. And it became news to me when we did our final occupancy inspection that it had gone into the setback. And then so our initial thing was to be like, okay, well, let's solve this. And when we looked at other avenues, we were looking at basically negating the efficiency of the unit by locating the condenser on the opposite side of the building where it would be approved. We didn't want to put it on the garden side because, again, there's no access. And being a professional firefighter, these things occur to us as well, but where you can travel through these zones. But nonetheless, we wanted to go through the variance process to see that if we could put whatever we can do as far as like a shroud or something to make this acceptable to Oak Bay, we would do it right away. And just trying to keep the unit as efficient as possible, and trying to keep everybody happy somehow at this stage. So hence the application for the variance.
Thank you, Mr. Cosgrove. Anything else, Councillor Patterson? Thank you. I have in my speakers list Councillor Watson, and then Braithwaite, and then Appleton.
Yeah, thank you. I think my initial questions to staff, please, probably to Mr. Hadfield. With respect to accessory dwelling units on laneways, I guess we have a few of them now. This isn't really directly addressed in the report, but you are suggesting fencing as one of the options to address the concerns. I was surprised that there wasn't a fence. So I guess, first of all, I just wanted to confirm a fence is not required on a laneway, at the edge of a laneway property, or is it just practice that people put them in?
Mr. Hatfield?
Thank you, through the mayor. That is correct. It is not a strict requirement to have a fence line along a laneway. It is just common practice.
And I guess the next question then is maybe to the applicant, and just about the sort of vulnerability of that unit sitting where it is on a laneway that can be traveled by vehicles. I went to look at it, and I was just struck by the fact that it does seem, I mean, literally exposed, but kind of vulnerability exposed as a piece of important mechanical equipment. And I just wondered if you could comment on that, if you're concerned about its physical vulnerability where it sits on a traveled roadway, in effect.
Mr. Cosgrove?
Thank you for the question. Through the mayor, that is absolutely sort of subjective to who lives there and how they feel about it. So being a home builder, we address this type of thing, and it's by job. So if the client in this case was worried about privacy or damage to the structure, or in any types of sort of, like you said, vulnerability, we address it through the design phase. So the openness is what they kind of like about the design. When I look at it, I really like the way the building looks, but the vulnerability of that equipment isn't, like if somebody struck that with some type of vehicle or something like that, it wouldn't cause a catastrophic effect of any kind. However, the building of a surround, which was part of the plan, we just didn't do it because we wanted to make sure that we could come up with, well, if it was going to be worth it. If we granted the variance, we come up with a surround to at least have it look better. But no concerns on my end from this because its location is so close to the property line that something would be having to travel like perpendicularly to the property to hit it, as opposed parallel with the property line.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Councillor Watson, and move next to Councillor Braithwaite and Councillor Appleton.
Thanks very much, Mayor. Just a couple of questions. They're probably for staff, I think. So in the report, I think I read that that the staff feel that once this unit would be screened, that the visual impact would be negligible. And so just a clarification on that, is that staff's opinion that it would be the visual impact would be negligible?
Mr. Hadfield?
Thank you, through the mayor. Just to clarify, the if screened, the visual impact would be negligible. If I'm understanding that question correctly, then yes, I
Yes.
would agree.
Okay, thank you. And then another clarification, and I think I read this in your report as well, is that the current location is actually better from a neighbor's perspective because if it was moved, it would actually be more intrusive onto the neighbors. The neighbors might hear it more, or it might be more intrusive onto the neighbor's side that it would be moved to. Is that correct?
Mr. Hatfield?
Thank you, through the mayor. Yeah, largely that is correct. In terms of the heat pump being, this staff's perspective is generally that this is a positive from a noise perspective.
Right. Okay.
The heat pump is going to be further away from the homes that it would otherwise be closest to and theoretically most impactful on as a result, and is closer to the backyards of properties.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have then Councillor Appleton and Smart.
Asked and answered, Your Worship. My question was also about noise attenuation, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smart?
Yeah, thank you. My question was just with regards to the letter received from the neighbor with regards to continued sound concerns. And I wondered if the applicant as part of the proposed enclosure is considering an acoustic barrier, or if those sound concerns were resolved with the neighbor.
I'm not sure who to give that one to. Somebody give it to the applicant, give it to Mr. Cosgrave.
Thank you for the question. These units nowadays are far below the allowable decibels that would be infringing upon the neighbor properties, especially considering the size of it. We can take decibel readings from it, but if you're thinking of something that would resonate or dampen the noise around it, it would mean almost like we've done these in the past where they're concrete structures that would go further into the setback. And they can sometimes amplify the sound because there's nothing to diffuse the noise. They're very quiet units as it is. If there was a noise complaint that somebody had and said that this thing is keeping them up, we'd absolutely investigate it immediately. But the units are so quiet now you hardly even know they're on. So, but I'd be more than happy to address that. Like our solution now is just a simple wood structure which does absorb actual sound. It's a cedar structure and allows the that these units require for them to operate properly. So to be able to kind of capture or enclose something like that might actually hinder the performance of the unit. But if there was a concern from this unit, and if it's caused a concern, we would deal with it immediately. And
There was one letter sent in. It's just the noise generated when the pump comes on. There's that sort of initial startup.
Oh, the startup.
Sound. So that's the only, that is what Councillor Braithwaite, I believe, or Councillor Smart is referring to, is just that. That one letter we got, which was no concerns about it, but they would like to know if that could be mitigated, that startup sound.
Likely not, but I'd argue it's far less than just a car starting in any of the neighborhood houses by a long shot. But as far as mitigating the noise of these units, then no, not without hindering the performance of it, no.
Yep. Councillor Smart, anything else?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Don't see any other questions. So at this point, I'm going to invite any members of the public, either online or in person, wishes to speak to council on this development variance permit for 1059 Roslyn Road. This is a setback of a heat pump. Not seeing any people online or in person putting up their hands to speak, so I'll come back to this table.
Right, Your Worship, I would be happy to move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I'll go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, just a comment. I think that because heat pumps are becoming so commonplace now, I think we have to make sure that we do know where they should be sited. And so hopefully this is a good takeaway from this, and I do know that we now have a good guidance document to give to residents, so that would be good. But I also, I think that we should be mindful of equipment that is visible in some of these laneways, because they're quite popular walkway areas to many of the residents. And I think that if we aspire as a community to, in fact, encourage these types of accessory dwelling units, that we want to we want to make the areas feel like part of the community and feel attractive. And so I guess that's another thing that we have to work on going forward to just ensure that that is what we're contributing to. Because if we have equipment all along the back lane, it's not going to enhance either the walkability or the livability of that. So learning experience.
Thank you, Councillor. All right, I don't see any other discussion. I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That carries. Good luck with the project. I'm sure it'll be an improvement, whatever you do there, and yeah, very interesting to see the one of our early ADUs going in and how effective it is. So, good work on that project.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Could someone just knock on the door to invite Councillor Green back into the room? Oh, good. Welcome back, Councillor Green. Number 8.4, 1857 York Place, Heritage Revitalization Agreement Amendment Application. This came to us a couple weeks ago and was sent back just to get some staff review of things. So it's now back in front of us again. I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Green, for introduction. And we have the applicant here in the room with us as well, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Your Worship. This next item relates to a Heritage Revitalization Agreement Amendment application for the property located at 1587 York Place. This report also responds to the council direction received on June the 22nd of this year that directed staff to inspect the subject property and report back to council regarding whether demolition or removal of any portion of the heritage structure has occurred, and if so, whether such work is consistent with applicable permits, approvals, and the proposed Heritage Revitalization Agreement amendment. Following the council meeting on June 22nd, on the following day, planning staff visited the site and noted that the rear wing had been removed from the site with the exception of a dormer window and a window frame. The applicant acknowledged that the rear wing had been demolished and removed from the site on May the 19th, 2026, with the exception of a dormer and window frame that are hoped to be reused in the remaining portion of Annandale House. The applicant assumed that with council's direction on April the 27th to prepare bylaws based on the proposed changes, that they could proceed. Staff subsequently issued a stop work order in order to ensure that no further work took place on Annandale House until such time as council has considered the HRA amendment bylaw application. The HRA and the terms of the legal agreement provides for the building's preservation, rehabilitation and maintenance. In addition, the existing legal agreement sets out that the owner specifically agrees that the heritage building should not be demolished in whole or in part, moved or removed, structurally altered as to its facade or any other exterior element, or added to except in accordance with the Heritage Conservation Plan. As such, the applicant is therefore in contravention of the existing legal agreement because the agreement has not yet been updated with the proposed removal of the rear wing. Nothing further to add. The applicants are here to answer any questions on the amendment application that is also before council this evening. And I'm also happy to answer any questions that council may have on the HRA amendment application or the update in relation to the council direction from June the 22nd.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Before we get to any motions or anything else, are there any questions to either the applicant or the staff at this point? Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just wondering, was there any fine or municipal ticket issued to go along with the stop work order?
I'm not sure. I just want to make sure we're okay asking that question, given that's really into a bylaw enforcement side of the equation. It's okay. Go ahead, Mr. Bull.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Through you, as noted in the staff report, because this is a Heritage Revitalization Agreement, the enforcement process would be through the courts under the agreement. And it's not really, we don't have tickets for this kind of situation. It would require a different process. As noted in the staff report, a stop work order was issued to make sure that there were no further changes outside of the agreement made. And so that was the course of action that was taken. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
So no penalty for the actions taken. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Worship. So just for confirmation here, I'm interested in this situation just because it just hasn't cropped up before, but as outlined in the staff report, it indicates that should council not approve the amendment by law, the owner would be required to rebuild the rear wing as per the previously approved plans that are set out in the HRA. Is that automatically triggered by a denial of the HRA application, or does that require specific action on the part of council to trigger it?
Go ahead,
I think,
Green.
yes, it will be helpful if council, obviously, if council is choosing to deny the amendment application, that council also directs staff then to enforce the existing heritage revitalisation agreement, legal agreement that we have, the district has between the District of Oak Bay and the current owner.
Thank you. Don't see other hands for questions. So any members of the public wish to address council on these, either online or in person, for 1587 York Place, the HRA? A pretty empty room right now. I don't think, unless there's a specific questions are attached to this, I don't think there's any necessary for the applicant to come forward. So with that, maybe I'll seek someone to put the motion on the floor for discussion.
Your Worship, I would move that 1587 York Place, 1562 Prospect Place, Heritage Revitalization Agreement Authorization Bylaw number 4885, 2025, Amendment Bylaw number 4975, 2026, be read a first and second time.
Seconded, thank you. Discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be voting against the motion as I have done all along. So, and I for the same reasons that I have stated before. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Braithwaite. Any other discussion? Okay, I will call the question then. All those in favor? And those opposed? Councillor Braithwaite opposed. That motion carries.
Your Worship, I would further move that 1587 York Place, 1562 Prospect Place Heritage Revitalization Agreement Authorization Bylaw number 4885, 2025, Amendment Bylaw number 4975, 2026 be read a third time.
Moved and seconded, thank you. We don't usually debate on the third reading, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And those opposed? Councillor Braithwaite opposed. That carries. We anticipate this to come back at the next council meeting in either next week or 2 weeks from now?
Correct. I think it's July the 20th that is currently scheduled for that bylaw to be placed on the agenda for adoption.
Okay, so next week.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, this bylaw cannot be adopted on the same evening as for second and third
No
reading.
apologies required on that one. That's just the process. But we, for those who don't know, we've just had an agenda review today, and it looks like we'll probably do a half committee of the whole, half council. So we have an opportunity to deal with a few housekeeping things at the council portion of that meeting as well. So likely to come back to next week. Okay, with that, that concludes that one. Good. Don't continue the project just yet. We wait till we, but we are that advances the project substantively. Is there any new business? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
May I ask a question, Mayor?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. And it's in regards to the fact that no fine or municipal ticket has been issued on this particular property. And I'm wondering if there's a place where myself or other residents could actually go and find out more around why that is for something like this, because I think it would be of interest to residents within the municipality why someone who contravenes a bylaw is not ticketed. And so I think that would be interesting information for people. And I was wondering if perhaps staff could give some indication on where we could look for that kind of information, please. And thank you.
Sure, thank you, Councillor. There was information in this report that lays out the process for how the district is able to address if there's a substantive contravention of a HRA or other agreement. Is that not sufficient, or I'm not sure if that's...
I was thinking that probably wasn't sufficient, so I'll go back and reread it again. But I think that's, from my point of view, it wasn't sufficient because I think we need more information on that, and perhaps residents might feel the same way. I don't know.
Sure. I'd probably best to ask that question offline. I don't know the answer to that. I do recognize that the asking the why a fine would or would not. I mean, if it's a policy piece, staff can answer it. And if it's in terms of an enforcement of a specific infraction, then that steps into the realm of an enforcement issue that we can't comment on, correct?
Yeah.
So,
Thank you very much. Yeah.
thank you. We move then to any new business or notices of motion. Seeing none, so we have two pieces of correspondence in front of us. The first is the 11.1, a funding request for an elders lunch at Songhees Nation. We just have it as a letter here. We don't have any sort of introductory report or anything else. I think for a little bit of context, this is a lunch that Songhees hosts for other First Nations, so not for our participation. They have asked for us to provide funding in the past, and certainly on 2 occasions we have provided funding, I think in the amount of $2,500 that last time it was asked and provided. So that's the context of it. The recommendation here, as is for all kind of this type of correspondence, is for receipt. I might take questions first and then go to a motion. Actually, why don't we have a motion to receive first, and then for people who wanted to speak to the potential of participation.
Motion to receive?
Moved and seconded, thank you. Okay, it's on the table, so we can talk about the whether or not to fund as well is welcome. Councillor Green?
Thank you very much. I think because we had done this in the past, I think it would be proper for us to do it again. I don't know the amount, though. That may be open for discussion, but certainly I think it's worth the investment in relationship building ultimately, even though we won't be there.
So I'm going to just suggest, if that's the will of council, matching what we gave last time, around $2,500 is probably appropriate. Maybe to staff, where would the source of those funds come from? I know we have some leftover grant money that we hold in reserve. Would that be the appropriate place?
Yes, Your Worship, the council reserves money in the grants and aid account, and that would be the place we would fund that from.
Okay. Does that help? Councillor, does a seconder wish to speak, Councillor Appleton, and then go to Councillor Patterson?
Just very quickly as a follow-up, Your Worship, do we have a sense, and I don't mean to put staff on the spot, but do we have a sense of what's left in the community, in the unallocated community grants?
Yes, approximately $18,000.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And my question follows along a little bit the same as Councillor Green, and that is about, contribution to it. It would be nice to know what the attendance was for this so that we could give feedback to our community. So if we could find out a little bit more information from the nations, that would be nice. I mean, I'm very supportive of the fact they're doing this. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for them to engage elders from the broader community, so it's wonderful. But I do also notice that they have contributions assist with event expenses, including the meals, transportation, elder gifts, cultural programming. And so I'm just wondering if there is, the letter has been issued, I'm wondering if there is any other component of a package that comes out that might say, these are the sponsorship opportunities, and so perhaps if staff can just follow up on that for future consideration if we want to look at something. Thank you.
Fair enough. So right now, the motion on the floor is to receive. I think what I would deal with is a motion arising if the council wishes to direct some funding. So I'll call the question on the motion to receive. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed? Did someone wish to make a motion arising to direct $2,500? Councillor Green? Moved and seconded.
Make that motion.
Thank you. To come out of the grant funding reserves. Any further discussion on that? Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Worship. I mean, in support of this, I did want to just express my support for the comment that Councillor Patterson made. I think that it would be useful for these types of things, not to artificially constrain what the Songhees or any nation asks us for, but I do think that the point is very well made as far as, when, for instance, when we support the South Island powwow, there's a more clear understanding of what the sponsorship structure is and how that's expected to be used, or that's how expected to be applied. I'm not going to tell the nations how to write that up, but I think that that's a reasonable request, just not just reflective of because we want unnecessary information, but I think it helps communicate, and I think the Songhees and Esquimals know this, is, we're expending taxpayer funds on the, on the sponsorship. We need to get a good sense of what is involved with it, or the best sense possible. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green.
I just have a very quick question through you to our staff. What is our balance in the grants and aid account? I recall we...
That's $18,000. $18,000.
All right. Okay, so we've started over again. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands on the question, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That carries. We move then to item 11.2. There's a funding request from the MYST program. We have the letter here. Motion recommendation again is for receipt. So if we have a mover and seconder for receipt. Moved, seconded. Thank you. Councillor Patterson, you intended to have a motion arising out of this as well, I understand?
Yes.
For those who don't know, Councillor Patterson is online, our liaison to the Youth and Family Court Committee.
I do, and I will make the motion arising, and then I will elaborate on kind of how I got to the motion arising, because there was other work that was done in advance of this. But the motion arising from this is that council direct the mayor to...
Why don't I just hold that, and I'll come back to you on that one. Is there any other discussion on the motion to receive? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yes, the motion arising is that council direct the mayor to send correspondence to the CRD board and to the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General affirming Oak Bay's support for the integrated police unit, including the civilian councillor position.
Is there a seconder for that? Moved and seconded. I don't think this needs a lot of articulation, Councillor Patterson, unless you want to. I think it's pretty straightforward asking that.
Yeah, I will just be very brief. When the request to again advocate for funding for MYST was made by Deputy Chief Constable Damian Kowalowick, and the officers of the team, the Family Court Committee did in fact respond to that, and we made the decision to put it forward first to the CRD board. And so the motion that went forward to the CRD board was that the CRD board direct staff to report back on potential methodologies for funding the civilian counselor position affiliated with the Mobile Youth Services Team, which operates as an integrated police unit under the direction of the Greater Victoria Police Chiefs and Detachment Commanders. So that's why now it is just coming to us to back it up with a letter affirming our support for the team to the CRD. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, that motion did get to the CRD board, and it passed. So there's, I think there was, I will say that there was a number of statements about the concern about that is, whether or not that can fit into a local government level of funding that kind of service, but certainly the exploration will happen at the CRD level, and that report will come back to that table. So a letter in support is essentially in support of that process.
And I could speak to the other issues further, but that would take a lot longer, and I don't, that wouldn't get us further tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think we probably need a lot of debate on this, but go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
No debate, Your Worship. I'll just take the opportunity to extend my thanks to Councillor Patterson for continuing to advocate for this program and to continue to keep Council well apprised of progress and how discussions happen offline. So as liaison to this group and kind of keeping Council informed about MYST and the significance of it, Councillor Patterson does a great job, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Green.
Yes, very quickly. I'll add my voice to Councillor Appleton's voice about that. I know the amount of work it's taken, and Councillor Patterson has been relentless in pursuing a financial framework for that committee and for its ongoing stability. So my gratitude as well.
Thank you. I can I'll third that motion, if it was a motion. Thank you for your work on that. I think it may be worthwhile if anybody's watching this, we have one person in the audience still and maybe some people online. For those who don't know them, the MYST is the Mobile Youth Services Team. It's an incredibly powerful team of a social worker and an undercover police or a plainclothes police officer who build direct relationships with youth at risk and youth on the street, and help provide them interventions to help ensure that they can get out of that life. They've saved lives, they've changed lives. It's been an incredibly powerful entity. The funding for the non-police half of that pair has been essentially cut. It's been sort of on life support for a number of years, sort of year over year, with grants and other things, and so it's essentially disappearing. And that with that, it goes away the entirety of the entity. And so now everybody who recognizes the value is struggling for funding, and so to find funding, and so that's part of this piece. But I'm not sure everybody in the public is aware of what MYST does. Hopefully, you never need them, I guess is probably the bottom line. But they are a very powerful integrated unit for the region, and so this is important, 100%. So thank you for that, Councillor Patterson. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That carries. That leaves us with just adjournment. Can I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn, Your Worship.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That carries. Thank you online for those in the wee hours of the morning and those at home sick. Thank you for your participation, and we will see you all next week. Take care.
Thank you.